Assembly tools on your workbench. Medium-sized posi drive screwdriver, medium-sized flat-headed screwdriver, needle nose pliers, small needle nose pliers, electrician's wire clippers, sheet of sandpaper, 2 or 3 centimeter wide paintbrush, thread locker, super glue, water bowl, latex gloves, transparent goggles. Bonding the tires. Sandpaper the grooved sides of the wheel rim and inner faces of the tire. Insert foam filling. And then, using the paintbrush, brush off any residue from all the components. Fit the wheel into the tire and mark the bonding points with a felt tip. Wearing the latex gloves and safety goggles, apply super glue at every marked point. Bond the first point while moving the wheel from right to left to ensure the adhesive spreads consistently. Remember, you should use thread locker on all screws with metric threads screwed to metal parts. Before bonding the other wheels, note the tire tread and make sure you have assembled all the wheels with the right orientation. Body. For now, you should set the body and window transfers aside, because styling and customization is applied on differential assembly. Prepare the arm supports by fitting the set screw. Insert the planetary gears into the 2 casings and lock them with the supports by pushing them outwards to stop them from moving. After inserting the ring gear, put a little grease on the planetary gear and fit the seal after greasing its contact area. Using the small needle-nosed pliers, fit the 2 pinion gears to their shaft. Then join the 2 casings using the guides. Fit the 4 screws and tighten them, alternating diagonally. The differential is now ready. Shock assembly. Insert the rod into the first E-clip, and then the piston, which should rest against the E-clip. Lock the piston by fitting the second E-clip. Prepare the shock by inserting the 2 blue O-rings and fitting the plastic washer to the cap, tightening it by hand firmly to the body itself. Take the rod and piston and insert the assembly in the body. Using the cutting section of the large pliers, grip the rod just below the threaded section and tighten the plastic ball joint. Insert the eye through the lower cap. Rest the membrane on the body of the shock and close the assembly. Fit the spring's guide washer and the spring itself onto the body with the spring stop fitted to the rod. Also insert a 2mm spacer. Later on you will charge up all the shocks at once. Center front transmission. Take the first outer bulkhead and insert the eccentric bush, keeping it centered. Do the same with the second bulkhead. Then fit the previously assembled differential to the 2 bulkheads. Take the front transmission shaft, insert the pin, and fix it to the pulley. Fit the locking washer and lock the pulley with a suitable E-clip. Also fit the second support E-clip to the bulkhead. Fit the bearing to the first transmission shaft bulkhead and fit it to the shaft. Prepare the second bulkhead and set it aside for now. Take the second pulley, fit it to the shaft, insert the pin, and lock it with the pulley itself. Then fix it with an E-clip. Now assemble the second bulkhead and fix the assembly with an E-clip. The central front shaft is now ready. Make sure it turns smoothly and screw in the set screws that will hold the roll bar. Fit the long belt into the differential assembly, leaving the first 3 holes free, which will be used to fix the bumper. Take the chassis and fit the differential assembly to it, but do it gently as it's made of plastic. Fit the belt to the small central shaft and fix the shaft to the chassis. Check that it runs smoothly, and if it is too stiff, loosen the belt by turning the eccentric brackets. Center rear transmission. By now you should have assembled the rear differential in the same way as the front one. Fit the eccentric brackets to the bulkheads with a notch in the center and prepare the rear assembly. Fit the medium-sized belt. Prepare the brake system using the two pads with the appropriate screws after fitting the small springs between them. Fit the pads to the right-hand bulkhead, placing the brake disc between them to achieve the right thickness. After tightening all screws fully, loosen them one turn. Fit the two bearings to the bulkheads. Insert the brake disc between the pads. Take the rear transmission shaft and fit the brake bracket by fitting it into the hole provided with a steel pin. Now, as shown on screen, fit the entire assembly to the rear right-hand bulkhead and fit the inner pulley to the two bulkheads, fixing it with an E-clip. Using the rear belt, join the differential and shaft and fit the rear left-hand bulkhead, locking the rear shaft with an E-clip in the outer section of the bulkhead. You have now completed the rear assembly and can fit it to the chassis using the 5 self-tapping screws. Fit the shorter one into the front right-hand hole. Later on, if you have tightened all the screws, you should loosen the 3 front ones. Before moving on to the gearbox assembly, fit the set screw to the brake puller and fit it to the chassis. 2-speed gearbox. Take the clutch disc and, in turn, insert the following into the hole: steel ball, spring, and set screw, fixing the assembly. The set screw should be flush with the disc. Don't forget to put thread locker on the set screw. Fit the larger set screw and tighten it, ensuring that the inner hole is left free. Now we'll deal with the second gear ring gear, to which you should fit the normal bearing. Center the fixing holes with the adapter and fix it with the 3 grub screws. Fit the clutch disc to the shaft so that the pin locking the shoe is pointing forwards, and fix it by screwing the set screw onto the shaft's flat surface. Fit the ring gear to the bell, pushing it home. Now prepare the second ring gear for first gear, assembling the aluminium disc and one-way bearing. Tighten the screws firmly and insert the assembly. If you turn the ring gear forwards, everything should move, otherwise you have assembled it back to front. Fit the pulley with its pin and fix it with an E-clip. Joining front and rear transmission. To complete transmission, we need to join rear to front using the central belt, which should be fitted tightly to the 2 available pulleys. Check the entire assembly turns smoothly. Otherwise, check the fixings. If you haven't done so already, tighten the screws under the chassis. Take the central shaft and fit the ball bearings. Fit it to the 2 central shafts. Fit the washers and fix it all with the E-clips. Front suspension, stage 1. Start by screwing the ball joints with metric thread to the arms that will guide the steering knuckle arms. And then fit the bearings, inner one first, for which you will have to use the cross spanner, and then the outer one. Fit the knuckle arm ball joints with metric threaded ends in the 2 holes provided, and the spacer for the large aluminium set screw. Screw the assembly together until it touches the ball joint head. Once fully tightened, loosen it a little to free it up. Take the lower arms and fit the set screws, making sure they do not stick out underneath. Take the wheel cups, fit the washers. Then fit the cup shaft to the steering knuckle arm. Fit the pin in the visible hole and fix it with the wheel hub. Now screw the arm to the knuckle arm using the hex key first. Fit the upper arm in the same way. Servo, saver and steering. Fit the metal steering posts by fixing them firmly. Take the servo saver shaft and fit the two cams and spring. Fix the assembly using the threaded nut and fit the return rod to the cam. Fit the servo saver to its post, not forgetting to fit the outer ball joints. Fit the rod into the steering return, and then fit the spacer and return itself to the post. Fix the assembly with the two E-clips provided. Front suspension, stage 2. Fit the arm shafts into the bulkhead guide holes. Fit the fixing E-clips to the back. Holding them firmly, fit the lower arms with all the items you assembled beforehand. Join the two shafts with a platen, which should be fixed to the two bulkheads. And to finish off, fit the outer E-clips. Now move on to the shock tower. Fix it to the bulkheads with 4 screws. Fit the axle shaft into the cups, and fit the rear shafts guiding the arms. Then fit the spacers to adjust front axle caster. Steering rods and shock fixings. Screw the ball joints to the shafts carefully, because one end has a right-handed thread and the other has a left-handed thread. Use the spanner and pliers as specified on the assembly diagram. Fit the assembly to the steering ball joints. Now fit the ball joints for upper fixing of shocks. Fix them with the self-locking nuts. Rear suspension. Fit the set screws as you did with the front suspension, and then, as shown, thread the longer set screws to the protruding part. Fit the ball joints to the sockets, and fit one to each twin-threaded shaft. Screw the shafts to the arms, the shorter part, and finish fitting the arms by assembling the remaining ball joints. Now prepare the knuckle arms. Firstly, fit the bearings inside them. Then, after fitting an E-clip to the shafts, fix the knuckle arms to the lower arms. Partly insert the lower shaft, fit the arm, and push the shaft home. Then screw in the set screw until it touches the shaft. Using the pliers, prepare the upper struts, not forgetting that they have right and left-handed threads. Once the struts are ready, first fix the outer part to the outer central hole, and then fit the wheel shafts into the two knuckle arms. Fit the shock tower with the 4 screws, and then fit the O-rings into the 2 cups. To start fixing the strut, fit the metal stop and screw, locking it with a nut. Fit the strut and self-locking nut. Make sure the suspension moves freely. Radio tray. Fit the servos to the radio tray using the washer screws. Fix them, but don't tighten them fully. Also fit the switch provided with the kit. Feed the aerial cable through the hole provided and bring it up through the adjoining hole. After fitting the batteries, place the pack between the 2 servos and, with the adjustable cable ties, fix it to the receiver on the tray. Make the connections: battery, steering servo, accelerator brake servo. Protect the aerial with the protective sheath provided. Fuel tank. For this stage, you need to fit a lower guard for the chassis and 2 O-rings between the tank and guard itself. Don't over-tighten. Bumpers. Fit the bumper assembly to the chassis and fit the body fixing post through the neoprene foam. fix it with the self-tapping screws. Body struts. Fix the post strut, fitting the shorter posts in front and the longer ones at the back. Insert the posts and fix them with the set screws. Finally, fit the height adjustment discs with the spring clips. Engine. This is the heart of your car, the internal combustion engine. Take the engine block and insert the crankshaft through the back. Partly insert the pin in the piston and fit the con rod by feeding it through the piston. From the top of the engine, insert the piston with the con rod, fitting the con rod to the crankshaft journal. Fit the sleeve using the guide pin. Fit the aluminium gasket under the cylinder head and center the head very carefully. Fit the screws and tighten them, alternating diagonally. Place the gasket on the rear cover. Insert the drive shaft with the one-way bearing and fit the assembly to the engine using the 4 hex screws. Insert the shaft with hex in the rear cover and couple the starter system by fixing it with the hex screws. Fit the threaded carburetor shaft and the carburetor itself, and then tighten the side nut to fix it. Using the 8mm spanner, fit the spark plug into the cylinder head. Fit the spacer bush to the crankshaft and flywheel, which should be fixed with the hex nut provided. Join the spring clip to be fitted to the twin shoe clutch. Insert the clutch in the flywheel and fix it with a large E-clip. Fit the large washer, large bearing, bell, small bearing, and fixing screw. Fit the engine to its mount and fix it with the 4 screws. Insert the 2 long screws with their washers. Assemble the seal and fix the silicone exhaust pipe. After slightly greasing the 2 foams, place them in the filter. Fix the exhaust support rod to the chassis, fitting it using the holes provided. Fit the engine to the chassis and fix it with 4 special round-headed screws. Steering linkage. Fit the actuating rod to the steering servo cam. Switch on the transmitter and receiver, and with the servo trim centered, fix the cam to the servo. Before fitting the receiver box, you should assemble the servo saber to the other section of the steering rod. Fix the receiver box using the screws provided, both from above and below. Exhaust pipe. Fit the set screw to the front end, followed by the silicone pipe. Fix the pipe with the 2 cable ties. Insert one end of the silicone pipe through the upper hole to provide pressurization. The tube should be around 10 centimeters long. Finally, connect the tank to the carburetor. Accelerator and brake linkage. Follow the instructions for fitting the accelerator and brake linkage, explained step by step in the section covering this mechanism. Now check that it all works properly by using the various transmitter controls. Fit the roll bar with its curved section to the left and fix it with the central bulkhead set screws. Fit the air filter, fixing it to the carburetor intake with a cable tie. Charging shocks. Remove the spring and the cap from the shock body. Fill it to the brim with silicone oil. Press the membrane down onto the body to remove any excess oil and refit the cap, pressing it firmly by hand. Check its operation. Make sure there are no air bubbles and refit the springs. Fitting shocks. Now your car is nearly finished. Using the pliers, couple the ball joints to the shock sockets. Insert the pins with the wheel hubs. Place 2 wheels under the chassis. First, fix the lower end of the shocks using the self-tapping screws, and then couple the upper socket to the ball joints. Now you can fit the wheels. Use the cross spanner and pay attention to each tire's orientation. Body finish. Finish your BMW M3 GTR body with amazing designs. Throughout this publication, we will provide you with transfers that you can stick to your car body, and with the printed publication, you will learn everything you need to know about painting and customizing it in every detail. Now head for the track and now start the engine. All you have to do is connect the igniter and pull firmly and quickly several times on the starter cord. There it is, watch it go. Its performance is unrivaled.